All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another one of our conversations here with Dan.
Good morning, brethren.
Yeah, we got a lot of play off that one on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. Just as a reminder, I mentioned this last week, but we would love to know where you're watching from. So take a moment, pause the video, scroll down while you're listening, whatever, and let us know physically where you are. We'd love to kind of put together a little map of where all the people are listening to us and where it's being watched.
Yes, sir.
Because we've heard from quite a few people in various places.
Hopefully not the polices in various places. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if the police are watching too,
that's a good thing.
That's fine with me, you know. All right, so as for this week's question, Dan, what is Hades? Is it the grave? Is it a place separate from hell? What is Hades?
Hades is a term used in the early centuries, like in the century that Christ was there and before, for the realm of the dead.
Okay.
Where all dead people are. That's called Hades. Hades was a mythological figure.
I was going to say, going back to like Greek mythology and stuff.
Yeah, and he was the prince or the ruler of the dead. But it came to be that people just referred to, you know, our relative has gone to Hades. I mean, they've died. They've gone to the world of the dead, not the world of the living. So all dead people go to Hades. In the Old Testament, the word that corresponds to that in the Hebrew Bible is Sheol. Sheol is the word for a grave, a hole in the ground. Sometimes Sheol means like down in the depths of the earth or at the bottom of the sea, but it's like buried down deep somewhere, Sheol.
Yeah. Okay.
And so in Acts 2, for example, in verse 27, when Peter was preaching about the resurrection of Jesus, he talks about one of the Psalms of David, a prophecy of David, where he speaks of God delivering someone from Sheol or the grave or Hades. Read it for us there, 2:27.
He quotes and says, "For you will not abandon my soul to Hades or let your Holy One see corruption."
All right. A person sees corruption, you know, in the worms and the maggots and everything in the grave.
Yeah.
But there is a prophecy here in this Psalm 16, I think it is, where David is speaking of someone who will not be left in the grave long enough to be corrupted, but, you know, they'll be raised from the dead. And down at verse 29, he says, this isn't talking about David because he died and was buried and he's still in his grave.
Yeah.
So he did see corruption. But a little bit below that, he said, he, foreseeing this, spoke of the resurrection of the Christ, that neither was his soul left in Hades, nor did his flesh see corruption. This Jesus God raised up, whereof we are all witnesses, right?
Yeah.
So Hades is the grave. Some people have gained a misconception in thinking Jesus went to hell, because the King James translates there hell in Acts 2:27. But hell is a completely different word. It's the word Gehenna.
Okay.
It's not the word Hades. And here the word Hades occurs, meaning the grave or the place where dead people are. Okay? Now in Revelation 1, about 17 and 18, you can read that one for us. This is Jesus, the risen Christ, appearing to John. And John's afraid, and what happened?
All right, 1:17 and 18. When I saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead, but he laid his right hand on me, saying, "Fear not, I am the first and the last, and the living one. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I have the keys of death and Hades."
All right, so Jesus died, but he raised from the dead, and he says, I have the keys of death and Hades. Remember when he said he would build his church, he said, I'll build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it.
Now, a lot of people translate that the gates of hell.
That's a mistranslation.
Okay.
It's not Gehenna, it's Hades.
Okay.
So the idea in the minds of the people was, metaphorically, when I die and I go through the gates of Hades, I go into the world of the dead, those gates close behind me and I never get to come out again. See?
Right.
But Jesus opened those gates up and came back out and built his church in spite of death. He rose from the dead, see?
Yeah.
And he says to us, don't be afraid. I've got the keys of death and Hades. So if we have Jesus,
Okay.
we've got the keys to Hades. We can expect our own resurrection and our own blessing in the life eternal because Jesus conquered death. So Hades is the realm of the dead. In Revelation 20,
Okay.
all dead people, good and bad, go to Hades. Hades is not bad. Part of Hades is bad because part of the dead people are in torment, like Luke 16.
Yeah.
The rich man woke up in
Right.
torment, but a part of the dead are also in paradise, which is a really good place. But the whole realm of all dead people is called
Hades.
Hades. Now read
Okay.
Revelation 20, starting verse 11.
Okay. It says, Then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it. From his presence earth and sky fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and the books were opened. Then another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged by what was written in the book, according to what they had done. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one of them according to what they had done. Then death and Hades...
That's good enough.
Okay.
So death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them. In other words, all those people, whether in good or bad, they came out of Hades to face the judgment of God.
Now, verse 4. I want to read verse 14.
I know you do, because now death and Hades are cast into the lake of fire, which means there's no more death after this. Death is no longer a factor.
Okay.
See? But as long as there was death, and there will be until Jesus comes again, then people will be going to Hades.
So people like to think, and maybe this is because of the mythological connections and everything, like there is heaven and kind of paradise, and then Hades, and then hell, is down here. And
That's probably insufficient, but we've done another video that's rather lengthy on the afterlife and what we can expect, and so that one would be appropriate for people to go back, and you might provide a link to that.
to the ones
video.
about paradise and everything.
Right, and that will explain more about that, but
suffice to say, Hades isn't like a pre-hell. Hades is just death in general.
Everybody who dies goes to Hades.
Okay. And that may include some torment, but it also includes some paradise.
Yeah, and you won't, just so we clarify what he just said, because I have to keep him completely straight. Doesn't mean you'll be in torment for a while and then you'll graduate to paradise in Hades. Either one or the other. Yeah.
Right.
But
we're
Hades
not in rings moving outward or inward.
Hades is just a generalized word that means the grave or the realm of the dead.
Okay. So it's a little bit of both as far as our questioner is concerned. It's a place of...
But it's definitely... It's not an equivalent to Gehenna, the word for hell, which means the burning place of torment. It's not.
Okay.
Now, it can be in some aspects, but that's a different discussion.
And therein goes to, sometimes, I think I said once to you, I was like, I don't need to know any Greek. I need to know a little bit of Greek every now and then.
Jed knows a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff.
I don't know much Greek.
There you
I freely admit that one.
He's a pain, but he knows a lot of things about a lot of stuff.
Aw, that was a half compliment.
It was.
Well, thanks, Dan, for being here and going through another one of our questions. And thank all of you for joining us and continuing to send these things in. We always appreciate hearing back from you in the various ways that we receive your communications.
Tell us where you're from. Bye-bye.
See ya.